This is the Vox AC4BL. Its circuit is based on the Vox AC30, and the question today is it the right amp for you? I bought my AC4 about a year ago because it was one of those highly requested amp on my channel. If you're new here, I usually do a lot of Vox related content. This one kept being asked for, so I bought it used. I've been playing it for about a year now, and I'm going to share with you what I think are the pros and the cons of the Vox AC4BL. This is going to be a pretty detailed video, so if you want to hop around to different sections, just use the chapters below. If you want to know more about this amp, I have some affiliate links in the description box below. Now, despite having only a 10-inch speaker, the speaker sounds great, as does the circuit. There's a master volume, so that means you can dial in whatever sound that you want, clean or dirty, at bedroom levels. If you're not the biggest fan of the speaker in there, there is a 16 ohm out, so you can use it with a 2x12 or a 4x12 that's rated at 16 ohms. As you're going to be able to judge from this video, the AC4 takes pedals really well. And like the other amps in the custom series, the EQ is very flexible. And as you'll hear throughout the video, the AC4 makes for a great recording amp. At this price point, the AC4 doesn't have reverb and doesn't have an effects loop. And for me, having bought a Harley Benton Tube 15 and a Marshall Origin, which sell for less than the AC4, the Tube 15 has spring reverb and has the effects loop, and the Origin doesn't have the reverb integrated, but it does have series effects loop. So at this price point, I don't know what Vox is really aiming for by not putting those options. But for some people that might not be a big deal, but if you like to have options like the effects loop and integrated reverb, those do not come with this model. When it comes to changing tubes, the AC4 is a bit of a pain because you do have to take out a lot of screws to get to them. So that means you have to take out the screws and pull out the amp from the cabinet, and they're placed in weird places inside. So it's not very convenient, unlike the AC15 where you just take off the back panel and you have access to the tubes. With the AC4, it's a bit more tricky. It's not that big of a deal, but I mean, if you're not comfortable with that, it kind of looks daunting to put your hand inside the amp and get access to those tubes, especially for beginners. If you're a more experienced musician, that might not be a big deal. but that's another consideration. And my last point for the cons would be the speaker. There's not a whole lot of room in there. So if you do want to change a speaker, you kind of have to measure out the dimensions of the inside cabinet, because you can't put something that's too big. You're limited to 10-inch speakers, unless you're really good and you want to modify the inside and try to squeeze in a 12. Maybe you could. Highly doubt it, but I think that's why the 16 ohm out is a great option. That means you can use a different cabinet with different speakers instead of investing money to try to upgrade that speaker. So for the price and all the job you would have to do, maybe upgrading a speaker is not the best option and not the easiest with this particular cabinet. If you need the Vox tone, but you don't need all the bells and whistles, you're going to be using it at bedroom level, or maybe you're a home recording enthusiast and you just need that Vox sound, then it's a great amp, because you can use plugins in post, add that reverb and delay and all that stuff. Or maybe you just use pedals and you don't even have to worry about it. It's a great option for that. Now let's talk about who it's not for. If you're on a limited budget and you're looking for an affordable amp that has a lot of great features and you can gig with it, you can play at home, you can do home recording, and you need all those features like effects loop and built-in reverb, then this might not be the amp for you. So here's my opinion about the AC4. I've owned it, as I mentioned earlier, for quite a while now, and I have compared it to different amplifiers. It does lack features, but this is not unique to this particular model. If you look at the AC10, if you look at the AC15, none of them have the effects loop. For some reason, Vox doesn't put it on anything except the AC30. I used to think it might have been a cost thing, but really it isn't, because if you look at the Tube 15 from Harley Benton, that thing is 249 euros, and it does have the effects loop. I have the Origin 5, which cost me 200 euros, and that thing has the effects loop. So there really isn't any excuse why most of the models beneath the AC30 have no effects loop. I think it's just maybe tradition, or they're just used to doing it this way and they don't question it. But if you need those features, then that kind of sucks. Some people do get them modified and do install an effects loop and all that, but I think for the price point and the sound that you're getting, you're probably better off getting one of the bigger ones. If you absolutely need built-in reverb and effects loop, you're going to have to look at the AC30 in the Vox line. But for what it is, it's a great sounding amplifier. I think it makes for a killer recording amp, and it does make for a much, much better practice amp than the Marshall Origin. It's all down to taste. If I didn't have an AC15 and I just needed to dip my toes into the Vox world once in a while, I would probably get the AC4, even though it doesn't have a whole lot of features, because what it lacks in features makes up for in terms of tone. And the recording results you heard in this video, you either like it or don't, but personally, I think it's awesome. It cuts through the mix just as well as my AC15. This is one of the many videos in the Vox AC4 series. If you enjoyed it, click right here on screen, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Cheers.